الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. O my Lord, open for me my chest, grant me self-confidence, contentment, and boldness, and ease my task for me, and loose the knot from my tongue, that they may understand my speech. Rabbi zidni ilma, O my Lord, increase me in knowledge. Allahumma faqihni fid deen, O Allah, grant us the understanding of deen. Assalamu alaikum, dear sisters. Last week we completed Surah Yusuf, and I just thought it was such a beautiful surah. There were so many lessons to be learned, and doing the surah verse by verse was absolutely fantastic. But I think we need to spend some extra time just getting down to the nitty-gritty of the lessons that we learned from the surah. So normally we do a recap at the beginning, sort of like of what we did last week. But today I think what we'll do is we'll do lessons learned from the 2 weeks that we spent learning Surah Yusuf. Now, the surah was amazing. It was one surah about one prophet, and no other prophets were mentioned in there, apart from the Prophet ﷺ, when he's being told that these are stories from the past that we reveal to you to strengthen you and show you that the prophets in the past have been denied and things have happened to them. So it is one surah that is actually a whole story in itself. It starts during childhood and it finishes when the whole family is united. So I think our lesson might be shorter than usual today, because we'll see how it goes and how today's lesson is going to be unique. It's not going to be like our other ones where we read through the Quran and we discuss each ayah, we read each ayah. These are the lessons. So they're a summary of certain things that we have learned in Surah Yusuf. And now we just want to make sure that they're drummed into us and make sure that we really understand it and make sure that we do know that we learned this during Surah Yusuf. Now, Surah Yusuf in itself was like a story. Now, we need these stories. These stories are unique, and it was a complete story from the beginning to the end. And it was unique because it focused entirely on one prophet. And along with other numerous stories in the Quran, it reinforces the teachings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in the Quran and Sunnah. And it helps us to relate and learn and to be inspired by role models. And so, Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, was a true role model for the youth that we have now, for our sons, for our brothers, for people around us that perhaps don't know this story. We have to take this story to them. We have to show them that, look, you don't have to follow everyone else. You don't have to say, oh, look, everyone's doing it, so it's I can't help it, or it's not my fault. Look, look how it was for the Prophet Yusuf. So it's a very, very unique story. Now, we see that the story actually begins with a dream. And it's important that we understand what dreams are and what they actually mean. Now, remember that there are 3 types of dreams. So one is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is a good dream. That is a true dream. That dream is likely to become a reality. And it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is the first type. And, that is the type that we all hope to have. But because we won't know the meaning of it, we won't know when it's going to become reality, we sort of like, it's a dream from Allah, but we know that we are probably not worthy of waiting for the interpretation or having it interpreted for us. The second one is from the Nufs. Now, the Nufs, the self, is a beautiful thing. The Nufs is a very strong thing as well. So the Nufs, what we do all day, what we say, what we feel, what we think, how we are with other people, the Nufs is actually, it absorbs everything. And it's just our own Nufs, our own mind, our own self, repeating what we've done during the day, repeating our different experiences, repeating our fears, our likes, our dislikes, repeating what we've done throughout the day. So your thoughts and your ideas, some are totally meaningless, some are totally random, and these, you see these in your dreams, and they're just from yourself. You know, it's what you've been thinking about all day. Oh, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. Oh my God, I'm worried about this. Oh my God, I'm worried about that. All these things seem to keep coming back, and you your mind will go over them again and again and again, and you will dream about them at night as well. So that is from the nafs, that is from the self. And the third dream is from the shaitan. So it could be a frightening dream in the shape and form of a nightmare. So you get up all sort of like scared and frightened. It's a nightmare, or it could be something filthy that you sort of think, oh, that was disgusting. I'm not like that, or whoever you saw that is not like that. So it's of a dirty nature, of a scary nature, of a sort of like a nature that is not from you on a normal day to day. This is from a from that. This is from the shaitan. When you have a good dream, don't go around bragging about it. Oh, I saw this and I saw that, and this is wonderful. Do not tell people your dreams, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether they're whatever it is. Do not go around broadcasting them. And we spoke about this sort of like in quite a great deal of depth about the fact that if you mention it, it becomes a reality. Or if someone wants to interpret it for you, it will become a reality. And you don't want certain dreams to become a reality. Sometimes people just have it, say it to somebody, just sort of like to see the reaction. It's not something that you want to do. It's not something that you want for it to become a reality. And we also learned that trials come from families and from the environment. So trials in the family will be all the things that we've seen in Sura Yusuf, and that we will actually discuss throughout today's session. And they are through the family, and then there's some of the environment as well, and some of those we learned in Surah Yusuf as well. But you must also remember, always put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't feel that you are, oh, it's not my fault, I'm helpless, it's not me, it's everything else. It's not. You have the power to live your life to to the degree of excellence, and we must be doing that. So don't sort of like think, oh well, it wasn't my fault. It's um I'm trying to do this or the other, and I can't. So it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of you. Just put your trust in Allah. Then we learned that you don't need to share all good things that happen to you with everyone. So if we go back to the surah, Yusuf's father said to him, when he told his father about his dream, he said, Father, I dreamt of 11 stars and the sun and the moon. I saw them all bow down before me. And the father replied, My son, tell your brothers nothing of this dream, or they may plot to harm you. Shaitan is man's worst enemy. So anything you see, you don't need to go and tell other people. So his father is here telling him that don't tell your brothers about this, because obviously when they hear that you've had a fantastic dream, they're going to become jealous. And Shaitan loves it when people have this animosity between them, and he ignites the situation, and he is man's sworn enemy. So he's told not to tell your brothers this. It's very easy for people to be swayed by Shaitan and become jealous over what we have, or what we think other people have and we should be having. But what we must realize is that before discussing our blessings, in this case, Yaqub alayhi salam knew that Yusuf was blessed. Yusuf, peace be upon him, was blessed. He had special abilities. He had special, he was going to receive prophecy. And this would cause his brothers to wish and plan harm against him. So he told him to keep the dream a secret and not to tell his brothers. Also, we learn that each blessing comes with a test. Every blessing that you have, it might be a very simple blessing, it might be a very comprehensive blessing, whatever blessings that you have, it comes with a test. And you should preserve your blessings in privacy. And you should also do shukr, have gratitude. You should do shukr and have gratitude. And when Allah has blessed you, then what do? We are eager to benefit other people with our blessings. The things that we have had for ourselves, we want other people to share those with us. So if we have knowledge, we go and share that knowledge with our friends and our family and people that we know. If we have anything else, then we try and, at least give a little portion of that to society, to mankind, to people, to help with others. So we must be keen and eager to help others with our blessings. Everything is a blessing. Everything that you have is a blessing. Even your time, sometimes we have free time. Even that's a blessing. And if you want to share that with somebody, go and visit somebody, then remember that that is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is also a test. And that you've got free time. What are you going to do? Are you going to waste it? Are you going to just sit there and watch TV? What are you going to do? You could benefit yourself by reading a book. You could benefit yourself by reading the Quran. You could benefit yourself by visiting someone who is ill. You could benefit yourself by teaching someone who is probably within your vicinity. Look, speak to them, teach them. If people have got children, you can teach them. So each blessing, even the blessing of free time now, when you look at our lives, free time is something that we really don't have anymore. But if you do have free time on your hands, then it's a massive blessing for you. And even if someone is jealous of you and they harm you, like it happened with Yusuf, then bear that test with patience. You don't know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planned for you. So don't develop hatred for people. So even when people are not good to you, when people are derogatory about you, they say all sorts of things about you, don't think that you have to stand up for yourself, that you have to turn around and say things to them, or stand up to them, fight your corner, so to speak. You don't have to do any of that. Have patience, have sabr, and Allah will deal with them. But if you think, well, I need to fight my own corner, and you stand up to them, then what are you going to do? You're going to probably say a couple of things to them. You're probably going to backbite them. You're going to tell your friends and relatives about them. Big deal. How is that going to solve anything? How is that going to benefit you? And how is that going to make the other person's heart mild towards you? But if you leave the situation as it is, then Allah will make the situation better, and will take sort of like what is it that we were looking to seek revenge. We were seeking revenge, and Allah will do that for us. And we must always ask for forgiveness for ourselves and for others as well. And we learned that people hate us for the good things that we have. So Yusuf was hated for the blessings that he had. He was hated for the fact that he was handsome. He was hated for the fact that his father loved him the most. He was hated. He was generally one of the younger brothers, and his brothers did not like that. And his father said to him, "My son, tell your brothers not of this dream, or they may plot against you, as Shaitan is man's sworn enemy." So they hated this. Why did they hate this? Because Allah had chosen Yusuf. Now, in our lives too, sometimes we think that we may be unhappy with people, and we wish evil upon them. And when they receive blessings, as mentioned in the last point, these feelings can manifest into evil thoughts and actions, even from people that are close to us, amongst our friends and family. So don't let your heart become of those that is like, envious of people, or jealous of people, or harbors hatred against people, harbors negative thoughts against people. Anytime you have a negative thought against somebody, replace it with a positive thought. They may have done something to you, but remember all the years, all the times that they have been good to you, all the times that they have been there for you. Don't just think, well, this one moment, that's it, everything is over. All the good that they have done is undone by this one action. And that is not the case. that is definitely not the case. So take away that negative emotion that you will have, take away that negative thought that you will have, and replace it with a positive thought that, okay, maybe this person is, not able to do something for me today, but what about the times that this person has been able to help me? This person has actually been there for me. And of course, things change, people change, their circumstances have changed, mine have changed. And maybe in the process, we're not able to carry on with whatever they were helping me with. But at the end of the day, they have been very good to me. So positivity should be the main rule of our life. We should treat everyone positively, and we should treat everyone with respect and love, and try and rid ourselves of any negative emotions that we have with people. And then we learned that we should try and love our children equally. So there was, in Yusuf's case, his brothers signed for those who asked when they said Yusuf and his brothers. So there were 10 brothers from one wife and 2 from another wife. So Yaqub had 10 sons from one wife, and 2, Yusuf and Binyamin, from another wife. So the 10 that were together, they wanted their father's attention, they wanted their father's love. And they thought that Yusuf and his brother are more beloved to our father than we are. While we are a clan, we are a strong group, we are a mighty group. So they had that thing about them that we are a big strong gang, we are a big strong group, there's 10 of us. So obviously they didn't know that there was qualities about them, that they were a big group. So if that big group had put their sort of like efforts into doing something good, it would have been absolutely amazing. But that big group decided to do something very very silly, and their efforts were totally wasted. So they said, indeed, our father is in clear error. So what they're doing here is not saying, well, our father loves the younger boys because they're young, because they're innocent, because they're perhaps more needy than us, or there's special qualities about them. They said that our father is in clear error. So every time we try and justify our actions, we always think that the other person is wrong. Whether it's our father, whether it's our husband, whether it's our child, whoever it is, we always believe that they are wrong, which is why we're doing this. And this is what they thought, that our father is is in clear error. The brothers of Yusuf felt that Yaqub was the father. So Yaqub, peace be upon him, was a prophet, and Yusuf was a prophet. So they were both, father and son, were prophets. Loved Yusuf more than them, and therefore made their plans for revenge. Children are very much attuned to how their parents treat them, especially if they feel more love or attention was being showered upon their siblings. So we should be mindful of how we treat and show love to our children. So that's another thing that we learned, that we really should try and be a bit more, a bit fairer to our children. Not to say that Yaqub alayhi salam was not fair to his children, but it is one of the things that actually, when we study the lessons learned from it, it actually came up. And then we learned that we might try and minimize the pain we feel from our sins by justifying our sins and pinning the burden on someone else. And this is what the brothers of Yusuf did. They tried to justify what they were going to do by saying, 1, that their father was in plain error, and 2, by saying that it was Yusuf's fault for being the favorite child. So his brothers were dear to the father, and they felt that it was clearly wrong that the father should like these 2 boys more than the others. So they're justifying their actions. So the brothers discuss how to get rid of Yusuf, and they don't mention that their hatred as a motive. But what they mention is the fact that the father is wrong, and he's that they want to be equally loved. And if they get him out of the way, then they will be loved by their father equally. Now, this this is not correct, and this is injustice. But they just, at the time, they could not see their sin for a sin, but they felt that it was justified. They felt that they were going to do that because of the situation that they were in. So they just thought that situation has given us the power to do the deed that we are going to do, which was a sin that they were going to commit. And then we learned that there are levels of bad people. Remember when one of it says that, oh, we should kill him, or we should throw him in a well, or send him to another land, or something. And that was one of them saying we should kill him. And another one spoke up and he said, no, don't kill him. Just throw him in a well, and a caravan will come and pick him up, and they will take him away. So their level of evil was different. So the ones that said kill him, they were really sort of like, oh, they I suppose were at the higher level of bad being in people. But the ones that said, well, our main purpose is to get rid of him, and we can get rid of him by just throwing him in a well, and someone will take him and we'll never see him again. So the motive is getting rid of him, and this is how we do it. Whether what's the point of killing him? So there was levels of badness in each of them. And so not all evil people are at the same level. In this story, that one brother initially suggested to kill him, and then the other one said, well, no, let's not kill him, let's just throw him in a well, and hopefully someone will take him. And the story goes that do not kill Yusuf, but if you must, throw him into the hidden depths of a well where some caravan may pick him up. So all evil is not black and white. It's not always good and bad are not always black and white. There are many shades of grey in between. And so it is helpful for us to remember that we don't elevate or degrade people beyond their level. So if someone has committed a sin, we don't just think all sin is the same. Everyone that's done something needs to be banished or removed from the land, or put to death. No, all levels of sin are different. Each person that commits a sin is different, and their levels of sin is different as well. And we learn that a shaitan can come in the form of a sincere advisor, as a friend. So these were the brothers now, and they were saying, oh, our father, why do you not let Yusuf come out with us? Oh, we will look after him. Oh, we are his big brothers. We, do love him, and you don't let him come out with us. So in front of their father, they are being really, humble. They're saying, well, he's our brother. We will take care of him. Just let him come out with us. And this is the same with most criminals that we come across or that we see. They will come to you and they will face you and they will look really righteous. And it was a similar case of Iblis when he came to Adam in form of a sincere advisor. And he said that, the reason that you've been told not to eat from this tree is because you will live forever. And I'm telling you this because I'm your true, sincere advisor. Just go ahead and do it. You know me, I'm really good. I wouldn't tell you that's something that is wrong. So a lot of people will do this. They will come to you in form of sincere advisors, and they will tell you something that is totally against Islam, unethical, not meant to be, you're not meant to be doing. It will bring you shame. It will bring the family shame. It will make you guilty. It will make you sinful. And they will come to you and say, oh, well, oh, but everyone's doing it. Oh, it doesn't matter. We're with you. So always remember that, these people that come to you in the shape of righteous good friends or righteous good people, then sometimes their advice is not acceptable. And this is how it was with these boys. They came to their father as, oh, well, we are his brothers, so let him come with us. And in our lives, shaitan may also suggest things. On the face of it, they may look very good, like meeting certain people, going to certain places, going to certain events. And we know deep down that it is not good for us. We know in the long run that it will not benefit us. And Allah protect us from the whispers of shaitan. And then we also learned that we have to be really careful with who we share our weaknesses and fears with. So Yaqub said to his sons that I'm scared, that I'm afraid that a wolf might eat him, that you'll be busy in your play and games and a wolf might eat him. So he actually gave them his fear, told them that this is what I'm scared of. And they used exactly the same scenario to come back and say to him, well, this is what's happened. And he initially shared his fear with the brothers of what might happen to Yusuf without him being there. And the brothers ended up using the exact same reason, but when they came to Yaqub later without Yusuf, since they knew that this was his concern. So they used exactly the same tactic that their father had actually said that he was afraid that this might happen. So in the story we read that they said, "Oh, our father, indeed, we went racing with each other, and we left Yusuf with our belongings, and a wolf ate him." So the father told him something. He told him his fears, and they thought, right, okay, we'll make that fear into a reality. And they come back and told him exactly as he had explained to them that that's what he didn't want to happen. So they said, well, that is what happened. And this is how, when you explain to somebody your fears, they'll come back and they'll tell you it as you fear it. And then we learned that we can't always protect the ones that we love. Um, Yaqub alayhi salam said that the thought of you taking him away worries me. I am afraid that a wolf may eat him when you are not paying attention. So he's trying to protect his loved one, but we can't always do that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the biggest protector. And so we can't protect our loved ones from sickness. We can't protect our loved ones from death. And we can't protect them from other hardships. But Allah can. So we must always put our trust in Allah. Always send them in Allah's hifz or iman. And don't sort of like feel that, oh, I need to be there. Without me, my children this will happen to them. Without me, this will happen to my husband. Without me, this will happen to so and so. Nothing will happen to them except the will of Allah. And this is how it happened in the story as well. So Yaqub's worry for Yusuf being away from him, even for a short time to go play with the children. So he never even allowed him to do that. And we are reminded that in these acts of care and love are important, but it is only Allah who can save someone from hardship and misguidance. When Yaqub, peace be upon him, finds out that Yusuf didn't come back with his brothers, he says, but it is best to be patient. From God alone I seek help to bear what you are saying. So he at the time knew that this was untrue, but he said that I am going to bear it with patience. I am going to have sabr, and Allah alone I will seek help, and the help to bear this with patience. So to actually bear grief, we need help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that sabr for us to bear any type of grief that we are going through. And then we learn here, even though the sons committed such a heinous crime, they looked to kill the brother, and even though they didn't kill him, they threw him in a well. So they got rid of him. So they got rid of a small child who the father was very, loved very much. Even then, Yaqub alayhi salam did not disown his sons, even though they committed the biggest crime that you could actually think of. So remember, as a Muslim, we can never disown our children, even when they have disappointed you. They have can you imagine being more disappointed than Yaqub alayhi salam at this very moment? Your sons are coming home and they're saying, oh, well, we've lost our brother because we were busy playing games and a wolf ate him. And he knew that they were lying, but imagine the grief that he would be feeling. Imagine the loss that he would be feeling. He did not say, get out of here, all of you, right now, leave my house and don't come back until you find your brother. He did not say those words to them. So you can imagine the grief and the disappointment that Yaqub alayhi salam would have. And even if your children have been wrong or are wrong, don't sort of like curse them in any way. Don't say anything bad to them. Pray for them and ask Allah to forgive them, and try to advise and guide them through their moments of madness. Because children, as youngsters, they will have moments of madness. As youth, teenagers, they will have moments of madness, and as adults, they will have moments of madness. And most of the time, who gets to bear the brunt of their moments of madness is their parents, their mother and father. So even though they had done something that absolutely shatters a parent, Yaqub alayhi salam did not disown them. He did not ask them to leave the house. And you see us nowadays, what do we do? As soon as a child does something wrong that we don't approve of, it may not be wrong in the sight of Allah, in the sight of Islam, it may not be wrong, but we disapprove of it. Immediately we say, get out, leave my house right now. And that's not something that we should be doing. We should not disown our children. And moving them away from yourself, how do you think that's going to benefit them? How do you think that's going to benefit your relationship? How do you think that, Allah has told us to keep the ties of kinship? How do you think we're going to be keeping the ties of kinship if we've told them to leave and we don't want to see their faces again? So that's another thinking point, a point where we need to see that, okay, these boys had committed a crime that most people would not commit. It's not a small crime; it's a massive crime. It's taking away a child. It is taking away the love of a father. And they came home, and the father just said that I will be patient, and he prayed to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to help him cope with his grief. So we should remember that that is quite a very that's a very important point that we have learned, is do not disown your children, and do not think that, oh well, just because they're doing something that we're not approving of, that's it, we need to be our lives have to be apart. They do not have to be apart. We still get on with them. We still teach them. We still advise them. Because once you have got rid of them, who's going to teach them the good things? Who's going to teach them about Islam? Who's going to advise them? Who's going to show them? Who is more sincere to your children than you? And they've obviously committed a crime, a mistake, a sin. You are the only person that can overlook that. You're the only person that can say, right, okay, that's happened, but we still need to move on. We still need to get along. We still need to move on. So always keep your children with you. Always, own your children. They may make mistakes, and it's part of human nature to make mistakes. But always make sure that you do not disown your children. And then we learned that there is no perfect crime. So, with regards to the brothers, they brought home a shirt with blood on it, and they thought it was fantastic. They thought their idea was perfect. We went out playing, and the brother got eaten by a wolf. Wow, that's a story that's believable. But what they failed to recognize is that when you bring a shirt home with blood on it, and you said that someone has died in there, but it's not torn, do you really think that there's any reason to that? There's any reality to that? So they forgot that one crucial element that the scholars of the Tafsir mention, that when the brothers brought back the shirt of Yusuf, they had forgotten to make holes in it. So obviously, if the wolf had been, had eaten him, there would have been teeth mark, there would have been rips, there would have been other things in there. But they just brought a shirt home with blood on it and say, "Hey, father, look, our brother was eaten by a wolf." And then, if we look at the shirt from another point of view, is when the wife of Al Aziz, where Yusuf actually grew up, when she was trying to get her way with him, and he said no, she grabbed him, and his shirt was ripped. So, if a shirt can be ripped running away from someone, do you think a shirt would not be ripped when a wolf is killing you, when a wolf is eating you up? So they felt that it was perfect. They felt that they had made a good story, but it sure was not a good story. It was not the perfect crime they had. It was sort of like screaming, sort of like injustice all the way. And then we learned that do not fall for the tears of other people. And when they came home at night weeping, they said, "Oh, our father, indeed we were racing each other, and left Yusuf with our possessions, and a wolf ate him. But you would not believe us, even if we are truthful." And they brought upon his shirt false blood. So they came crying, and many a time we will find that people will cry in front of us, and we will just fall for it. And immediately we will begin to agree with what they say. Immediately we will accept what they say. We will accept what they tell us. And it could be a lie, it could be an excuse to get out of something, but we will, when we're faced with the display of emotion of crying, then we will just sort of like fall for it. And don't forget to use your logic and look for evidence rather than just saying, oh, she was crying, she must have been really, really sad. It probably did happen. It They used their tears to in order to make room in their father's heart. And when the brothers of Yusuf came to Yaqub alayhi salam with their tears after throwing Yusuf in the well, he held firm to his conviction that Yusuf was alive and well, and that he needed to rely upon Allah to bring Yusuf back to him. So he knew that his son was alive. He knew his son was okay, and he knew that the only one that could bring him back was Allah subhanahu wa taala. So put your trust in Allah. And then we learned that not everyone knows your value. So when Yusuf alayhi salam, they sold him for a small price, for a few pieces of silver, so they did not value him. When we learn that 1 minute, you're free and you're high, and you think you can take on the world, and the next minute you're unable to do anything. In that case, Yusuf was, when he was with his father, he was held in high regard. He was held in high esteem. His father knew he was a special child, so he was treated really well, treated really special. But his brothers didn't really think much of him. Not just that, but they just sort of like went and threw him in the well. Then the caravan came along. They didn't think much. They just thought, oh, a little boy, quick, hide him, because what we'll do is we'll sell him. And then when they sold him, they just took a few dirhams. They didn't even ask for a bigger price. They just took the money that they got, and it was an insignificant amount, and they just left it. They thought, well, it's okay. We've just made easy money. They did not know the value of that, and that happens in our lives as well. Sometimes you have people that are so they're good in different ways. Some might have knowledge, some might have patience, some might have different qualities about them, but we do not realize their value. We do not understand their value. We do not take it as important to realize their values. So we learn that not everybody will value you as you feel that you ought to be valued. Um, then further along in the story, we learned that no one can force you to do what you don't want to do. This was when Yusuf was, peace be upon him, was living in the house of the Aziz. It says in the verses that she bolted the doors and said, "Come to me." And he replied, "God forbid. My master has been good to me. Wrongdoers never prosper." So she, being the woman of the house, she knows no one is in. She shuts the door and she says, and she's all beautified and everything. And then she says, come to me. And he says, no, I fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God forbid. So, and then he says that his master has been good to him. The master being her husband, that he has been good to him in the sense that he's provided me with all these luxuries, and here I am doing something behind his back. So just because that that no one is watching doesn't mean that you take it as a free gift. That is not how it is meant to be. So aside besides the cases where literally you are being forced to do something, you do have full ability over the words and actions that we use. In this case, the Aziz's wife, she did try to seduce him, and she had been trying it for quite some time. But it was up to Yusuf to reciprocate the action, but he didn't. He didn't say that he was accused, or if he committed adultery because she was beautiful. I mean, he didn't think, well, I can't help it. She's beautiful. She's in my face. She's offering. She's the boss, so I gave in. No, he was like, no, I fear Allah. She was powerful. She was alone with him, and he knew that she might have had all these qualities. She might have been powerful. She might have been beautiful. He was living in her house, but he knew that he was responsible for his actions, and therefore he helped Allah. He prayed to Allah to help him in his human self. So he said, "Oh Allah, save me from this. Give me the power to save myself from this." So whenever you are alone, fear Allah. Don't think I'm alone, nobody's going to see this, nobody's going to know. Let's do what we want to do. No, Allah will know. So always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save you. And you don't need a special dua or anything. Just say it in the words that you know, that you can say that Allah save me from this situation. Even if the situation is slap bang in front of you, just say, oh Allah save me from this situation. Take me away from this situation. And don't let me fall into the sin of the situation. So he didn't use any excuses here that, oh, she's beautiful, oh, she's powerful, it's her house, what can I do? Can you imagine any other man? If we look amongst our community, the people that we know, do you think that anybody would have been able to turn away or refuse? But that is what Yusuf Islam did. Then we learned that authentic people are faithful people. So even though he was being seduced by the Aziz, his wife, and she was the one that did all the chasing, he feared Allah, and he also said that his master, who was her husband, had been good to him. So he did. It was not like, okay, he's her husband, but why do my loyalties lie with him? His loyalties did lie with him because he was his master. He made life comfortable for him. He gave him a good standard of living, and he did not want to go behind his back. He did not want to betray. So don't betray those who have done good to you. So Yusuf immediately mentioned the loyalties that he had towards the Aziz, saying that Aziz has always treated me well. And he wanted the Aziz to know that he had not betrayed him while living in his house. He did not say, "Oh, she is throwing herself at me. What am I to do?" And this is what most people would say. Well, if you're getting it on a plate, then what's wrong with it? Or if she's throwing herself at me, then what do I do? No, he still stood his ground, and he still said no, and he still had respect for the man whose house he was in, and he did not betray him. And if you look further along the story, even when Yusuf was taken out of prison, he said, no, I want to clear my name first. I want the Aziz to know that in his absence, I did not betray him. So very, very important message for us there. And then we learned that the real power is when you are capable of doing something and you still say no, as with this situation, when she made for him, and he would have succumbed to her if not he had seen the evidence from his Lord. So if his Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hadn't given him that power, that ability, then he may have succumbed to her asking. Yusuf was handsome, he was young, it was a secret, the doors were locked, she was there. She was the one that was doing all the initiating. She was the one that was doing all the seducing. In that moment of the situation, of the circumstances, people are capable of committing adultery, but instead he demonstrated real power by saying no, and that's the power we need to teach our sons, and that's the power we need to teach our daughters, that stay away from things like that. Then we learned that you can be stabbed by someone close to you. So how was this? Who was this in the story that actually was stabbed someone close to them? When the Aziz's wife, when they ran to the door and they opened the door and the Aziz was stood there with someone else. And that someone else was actually related to the Aziz's wife. She said, oh, look, he's chasing me, he's doing this. And he said, no, it wasn't me, it was her. So she's saying this, as soon as she saw the Aziz, she changed her story. She said, oh, look, I am being attacked, I am being seduced. He said, no, it's not me, it's her. So now there's his word against her word. Two people stood at the door, the Aziz and another person. What do you do? Who do you believe? The other person said to the Aziz, he said that if his shirt is torn from the back, he is telling the truth. And if his shirt is torn from the front, then she is telling the truth. and the shirt was torn from the back. So the Aziz was very disappointed. He said that indeed it is of the women's plan. Indeed, your plan is great. Yusuf overlooked this, but he's speaking to his wife now, ask forgiveness for your sins you have done wrong. So he is very disappointed in what he sees. He sees that his wife is after the slave boy. And then not only is she after the slave boy, but once she is caught, she lies. She says, "Oh look, he's chasing me." Now, the person that gave advice, he gave good advice. He didn't say, "Oh well, why do I need to defend Yusuf, or why do I need to be truthful in this matter? Because my loyalties are with the Aziz and his wife. Yusuf is only a slave. Why am I gonna? Why should I intervene?" No, he gave good advice, and in a way, you could think that this betrayed the Aziz's wife. So he betrayed her in the sense that he didn't side with her. And sometimes you are betrayed or deceived by a close family or a friend or family member. In the story of Yusuf, we witness that the Aziz of Egypt finds out about his own wife trying to seduce Yusuf. So then he says that overlook this. So he's saying to Yusuf, okay, it's happened. We know she's at fault, but don't tell this to anybody. Just ignore it. But we know that things have a way of becoming public. We know that anything that is wrong, before you know it, everybody will be speaking about it. If you have done good, it's very unlikely that it will spread as fast as when something bad happens. That will spread very, very quickly. So just saying to Yusuf, "Oh, overlook this, don't speak about it," didn't really help the matter. Everybody knew it before very long. Then we learned that only Allah can save you against your desires, not your family or your marital status. So he says that if you do not protect me from their treachery, I shall yield to them and do wrong. So Aziz's wife was a married woman. That did not stop her from desiring Yusuf. Yusuf was the prophet. He was the son of a prophet, and he was the grandson of a prophet. And that wasn't enough for Yusuf to save Yusuf from his desires. In the heat of the moment, he knew that only Allah could save him from doing something that he would regret later. So immediately he made dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save him from that situation. So even being the son of the prophet, grandson of the prophet, so it was the fact that he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save him. And this is also another lesson in this very same thing, is young men and young women. We should never leave them alone on their own. Okay, they're cousins. Okay, she's his wife's sister. Oh, it's her husband's brother. Or lots of different scenarios where we leave people on their own. Young people, attractive people, people that are sort of like happy to explore. Never ever leave people on their own. Always, or when there's two people on their own, a man or a woman, a girl and a boy, the third is shaitan. So always try and avoid that situation. And then we learned that the joy of Iman is greater than any other joy. So Yusuf said, "My Lord, I would prefer prison to what these women are calling me to do." So he didn't say, "Well, these women are quite strong. They might be able to protect me. I'll save face in society." He said, "No, I'd much rather go to prison." So he went to prison rather than being bait for these women. He asked Allah that at least there his chastity would be safe. It would be preserved. So he could have accepted the advances of the Aziz's wife and the women around her, because don't forget, by this time the other women were thinking, "Wow, he's so gorgeous. He's nothing less than an angel." So now that he's got everyone's attention. Everyone in the city now knew that he was absolutely gorgeous, and they were all dying to have a glance of him. And he, however, distanced himself from it, and even went to prison instead of being able to freely move around with all these people putting obstacles in his way. And it wouldn't have been all these people; it would have been all these women. So rely, he had faith, he had iman, and then that brought him close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the enjoyment he wanted, the enjoyment of iman, not the enjoyment of these of women who were lusting after him. And then when Yusuf was sent to prison, we learned that many people are in jail unfairly. Many people get sent to prison for things that they have not done because Yusuf hadn't done anything and he was in prison. And in the end, they they all thought that it was better that Yusuf goes into prison, and it was more of a sign of his innocence. So he was sent to prison. And injustice is a very old thing. So it's been going on for years and years, not just, oh, so and so, poor thing, so and so's in prison for something they haven't done. It's been going on for such a long time. And if a prophet could be thrown in jail, then why not any other innocent people? It's easy that it's easy to assume that everybody that is in jail is guilty of something or the other, and they are deserving of being imprisoned. But Yusuf's sentence reminds us that even righteous people can find themselves in jail while having done absolutely nothing wrong. So he was in jail for something that he had not done. He had done nothing wrong. And then we learned even while Yusuf was in jail, he still managed to do dawah. So dawah can be done anywhere. We can speak about Allah, we can speak about the Quran to anybody, any place, anywhere. We don't need to be on a stage. We don't need to have millions of people around us. We can do it to anyone. So he did it to his inmates in the prison when they asked him about the dreams, and he said, "Right, I'll tell you about that." But before that, he slipped the dawah sentences in. He said, "I can tell you what this means before any meal arrives. This is part of what my Lord has taught me. I have left the religion of those who disbelieve in God and who deny the life to come." So he never stopped giving dawah, even when he was thrown into prison. Unjustly, he was thrown into prison unjustly. So he continued to give dawah to those around him. And he gave to dawah to the two cellmates who came to ask him about their dream. And then we learned about the importance of planning well. So when the king had the dream about the 7 fat cows and the 7 lean cows and the corn, the ears of the corn, and so on, all of that was the fact that if they had planned properly, then they would have got through this tough time. So it's not about your resources all the time, but it's about how you manage them. So Yusuf showed us how important it is to plan well, and then he told the king to save the crops for 7 years in preparation for the drought that would last 7 years. So they saved for 7 years in order to get through another 7 years that would come, that would be really tough. So planning well, especially, is very important when it comes to managing government resources, when it comes to managing day-to-day life, when it comes to managing your household. Planning well is the key. And then we learned that Allah can use a weapon that no one else could come up with. And the king said, "Bring him to me." But when the messengers came to fetch Yusuf, he said, "Go back to your master and ask him about what happened to those women who cut their hands. My Lord knows all about their treachery." So only Allah could have made the king see the dream and caused him to seek out the interpretation of the dream. And the series of events unfolded that led to Yusuf eventually being released from jail and earning a position to go and work for the king. So Allah can make miracles happen anywhere and anytime. So it was the fact that here is where Yusuf actually says, those women need to be spoken to again in order to prove my innocence. So they were spoken to, and they said, "Yes, we don't know anything bad about him. It was she who said all these things." And then she herself admitted that actually it was me. And that is another fact that we actually learned, that no matter how you hide something, Allah will expose it eventually. And when the king asked the women, they said that we did not know anything bad about him. God forbid. And the wife of Aziz said that now the truth is out. It was I who tried to seduce him. He is an honest man. So even the main culprit, the main person who committed the crime, she put up her hands and said it was actually me and not him. So no matter what happens, your innocent will come to light one day. If you are innocent, it will come to light. No matter who says what's happened to you, where you've been, whether you've been in prison or whatever it is, it will come to light. She obviously thought that she had got away with seducing Yusuf and then having him thrown into prison. The brothers thought that they had got away with throwing Yusuf into the well, but both cases Allah exposed them. So Allah exposed the wife of the Aziz because she had lied, and Allah exposed the brothers because they had committed the crime of throwing Yusuf in the well. And then we learned about taking opportunities and chances in life. So the king said, "Bring him to me, I will have him serve me personally." And when he spoke to him, he said, "From now on, you will have our trust and favor." Yusuf said, "Put me in charge of the nation's storehouses. I shall manage them prudently and carefully. So opportunities don't come by every single day. So this great opportunity came by. It did, and he recognized it and he seized it. So when you get an opportunity that comes your way, recognize it and seize it immediately. Don't think, oh, well, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next week, I'll do it such and such a time, I'll do it such and such a time. The opportunity may not come again. The opportunities don't knock every single day at your door, only now and then. But when this opportunity came, he said, yes, this is what I want to do. And when you take up opportunities, you are stretching yourself, you are growing yourself, and you are growing your mindset, and you are learning, and learning is crucial. There's and those times when you don't feel 100% confident that you can do something, but you still go out and seize the opportunity, are very rewarding. So you might think, I can't do this. You might think, I don't want to attend class, I don't want to do this. But seizing the opportunity is always rewarding. So anything that you think that's a good opportunity, go for it. Don't think I need someone to come with me. I've asked my friend, she said no. I've got this going on at the moment. It's holidays, it's not holidays. We make 101 excuses. We do not grab the opportunities that come our way, but we should. Opportunities don't come along on a daily basis. Whenever they do, just grab them. And in our cases, opportunities might be something like um, sort of like giving a lecture on Islam somewhere, or asking someone to join us for class. So simple things like that. It doesn't have to be, like it is in this case, to be the treasurer of Egypt. It doesn't have to be like that. Any small opportunities we should seize as well. And Allah will present us with many opportunities. It's up to us to go and seize them. In the story of Yusuf, the king told him he would give him whatever he wanted. He seized this opportunity to work for the king and was therefore able to help a nation avoid the calamities of a drought. So he took the opportunities and he did really well with that. And then we learned that people can change on you at any time. So you might have people that are really nice to you one minute and people that are really terrible to you the next. Or you might have people that are really terrible to you and then the next minute they're really nice to you. This is explained in Surah Yusuf when the brothers go home. They say, "Father, we have been denied any more corn, but send our brother back with us, and we shall be given another measure. We shall guard him carefully." And sometimes you realize that when people need something, they will be there for you. They'll be so gentle, they'll be so nice, they'll be so well spoken. And when they don't need you, their attitude, it changes. It becomes abrupt and it becomes harsh towards you. And sometimes, you think people might have two faces, but if people go on to have three faces, four faces, five, six, they can have many faces. And in the story of Yusuf, the brothers changed the way they talk about Yusuf's brother. So Binyamin, when they said, to the father, they said when they were in need of him to come to Egypt with them, they said, "Our brother." Oh, father, send our brother with us. And however, later in the story, when they returned after Binyamin was kept in Egypt, They came back and they said, "Your son," because he had stolen. The story unfolds that, oh, there was a bowl in his belongings, so it was considered that he had taken the bowl. He was accused of stealing. So they came home and they said, "Your son." They didn't say, "Our brother has been accused of stealing." They said, "Father, your son has been accused of stealing." So it says that it goes, the story unfolded that, "Go back to your father and say your son stole. We can only tell you what we saw. How can we guard against the unforeseen?" So now that they're facing a challenge instead of an opportunity with Binyamin, they distance themselves from him. And even in the language that they use, you can see that they are now thinking, well, we've got nothing to do with him. He's your son. And because they wanted to go for the measure of grain, it was our brother, send him with us. And we find that with us as well, with our lives. People will sometimes call you, my sister, and next day will be, oh, her, oh, that one, oh, the one that's like this or the other. And if they need something, it's like, oh, Bajiji, Oji, Oji. And when they don't need something, it's like, oh, her. So you can see that people, they change, their attitude towards you change with their need for you. And then we learn further along that to forgive over everything else. So forgiveness is something that we need to be better at. But he said, "You will hear no blame today. May Allah forgive you. He is the most merciful of the merciful." So forgiving, we often see that we say we will forgive, but we don't forget. So we forgive and not forget. And that forgiveness is hardly forgiveness. The type of forgiveness that they are speaking about is not every time something happens, you bring it up and throw it in their face saying, "You did this, but you did this, you did this." No, when you have forgiven somebody, forget about it as well. Don't keep bringing it up. And we especially bring it up when they have done, as soon as you've forgiven them, time goes nicely for a little while, for what, 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, and then suddenly something happens, and all of it we bring it back up as well, back up after that. You did this, you said this. Forgive and forget, and don't mention it again. Things aren't going to change. You've said you forgive them. The Frishtas have already written down the whatever they have done, so that's already there. You mentioning it again and again isn't going to verify it further. Leave it. Just forgive and forget. And then we learned that never be superstitious about anything. And this is with regards to the shirt. Remember the shirt at the beginning that they brought back after throwing him in the well? Then the shirt where the Aziz's wife grabbed Yusuf, so that shirt, and then the shirt at the end, the one that Yusuf actually gave them himself and said, "Go and put this over the eyes of my father, and he will be able to see again." So the shirt is mentioned many times, about 3 times at least in this. So just because it was mentioned, I'll go over how it was mentioned. He says, "But if the shirt is torn from the back, then she has lied, and if it is torn from the front, then she has lied, and he is truthful. Take my shirt and lay it over my father's face, and he will recover his sight." So the shirt is mentioned multiple times in his lifetime. The first instance where the brothers use it to fake his death, but when he is a young man, it's used as evidence to save him from the accusation of the adultery. And when he is older, it is used as proof of life to reassure his father. So even though with the shirt, a lot of trauma was associated with them being stripped of his shirt as a young child, but he still did not have bad feelings or superstitions about his clothing. And as Muslims, regardless of what happens to us, with what item, with what thing, with what place, we should never become superstitious about these things. It is, we shouldn't sort of like think, oh, well, this has happened, that's happened. No, whatever has happened has happened. Leave it and carry on life as per normal. Don't leave things out, because some people won't wear black, some people won't wear white, some people won't go and visit somebody on a such and such a day. Lots of things that people do, oh, because it's associated with such and such. That whatever incident it was probably didn't even happen to the person, but they have heard from it from somebody else, and therefore they do not do these things on this day. They do not do that on the other day. They do not wear this because of this. They do not. This is all superstitious. And in Islam, it is forbidden. We must never make superstition part of our life. It's not Islamic. And then we learned that this life is really worth nothing. So you know, when the dream is fulfilled, it says, Father, this is the fulfillment of that dream I had a long time ago. My Lord has made it come true and has been gracious to me. He released me from prison and he brought you here from the desert after Shaitan sowed discord between me and my brothers. My Lord is most subtle in achieving what he wills. He is the all-knowing, the truly wise. So we expect a lot from life, and if we are expecting a lot from life, we will be very disappointed. And I know we expect a lot from life because we think we've got to do this, we're going to do that, we haven't done this, we haven't done that. Lots of things that we think that we need to do. Some days we're going to have happiness, we're going to be high with happiness, we're going to think this is the best day ever. Other days will be really low, we'll be facing our struggle, we will be facing our struggles. And we should acknowledge this, and this story actually acknowledges this as well. And when Yusuf acknowledges this and realizes the wisdom behind all that Allah has put him through, from abandonment and prison to becoming a minister and then reuniting with your family. So if you can see all the phases that went through in Yusuf's life, not once did he think, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh, not again. No, but we immediately, one thing that happens to us, we think, oh, why did this happen to me? Not again. Why is it happening to me? So life isn't going to be as cushy as you want it to be. Allah has planned it for you, and it is the best. Allah is the best of planners, and it's the best life. It's your life. You're only getting one opportunity. Make the most of every situation that comes your way. If it's a sad situation, learn from it. Learn to be, thankful to Allah in your sad situations. If it's a happy occasion, learn to contain yourself. That happiness isn't going to last forever. Don't go around doing something, in your moment of happiness that could grieve other people. Contain yourself in your happiness. And life is a lesson. Everything in life is a lesson. Your happiness is a lesson and your sadness is a lesson. Your happiness is a test and your sadness is a test. And regardless of how happy and sad you are, if you're happy, you will have sad moments still. If you're sad, you will have happy moments still. So it's never all bad or all happy. We always have our moments. And we learned that the real knowledge is from Allah when He opens your heart. So, my Lord, you have given me authority. You have taught me something about the interpretations of dreams. Creator of the heavens and the earth, you are my protector in this world and in the hereafter. Let me die in true devotion to you. Join me with the righteous. So, Yusuf alayhi salam makes this dua towards the end of the surah. And it is realizing that your blessings are a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your knowledge is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And your gifts, your blessings, your gifts and your knowledge, they were as a result of Allah showing His favor upon him and opening his heart towards guidance. He looks back at his time in the desert and in the prison and realizes that Allah was testing him so that he would grow closer to Allah and grow in his wisdom and his understanding and in mercy. So life is full of challenges. It's not going to be, there isn't a single human being on earth who's free from hardship in one form or another. Even the prophets were tested with losses of wealth and health and of loved ones. So nobody can say that my life is 100% fantastic. I've never experienced any hardship, and no one can say that I'm always experiencing hardship. My life's never had any good in it. Each has their own tests, each have their own moments, and each have their own way of dealing. And then we learned that jealousy should be avoided at all costs. Jealousy isn't something that's good for us. It's not something that benefits us. It's not something that brings us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not something that we should be doing, full stop. It divides communities, it breaks up families, and The same thing happened when the brothers of Yusuf started believing that their father Yaqub loved more. So their jealousy was because they thought that their father loved one son more than the other. And so a jealousy has never benefited anyone. And we saw in Surah Baqarah that Iblis was jealous of Adam. He was like, oh, this is a human being made from clay, made from the earth, and Allah is asking us to prostrate to him. So he was jealous. So, and jealousy is what made him the accursed one. And he came to this dunya and he's like now the accursed shaitan. So jealousy does not benefit anyone. Jealousy has not brought anybody any happiness. And the emotion of jealousy is a complex one. It destroys a person's character and disturbs his inner peace. So when you are jealous, you're not harming the next person, you are just destroying your inner peace. It arises when someone else is better and more successful. And the mantra of a jealous person is, if I can't have it, then no one else should. So basically, a jealous person is saying that if I haven't got it, then nobody else should have it. If I don't have it, then no one should have it. He can never be happy over someone else's happiness. He can never be happy over someone else's success. And in Islam, jealousy is the most forbidden emotion to feel, and it eats a person's iman and corrupts his heart and soul. So jealousy isn't a thing that you think, well, okay, I'm only jealous now and then, or I'm only jealous of such and such. Regardless, you don't need to be jealous of anyone, not now and then, not ever. So it's an emotion that is totally forbidden in Islam. It makes a person forget his own blessings and concentrate on every negative aspect of his life, just like Yusuf's brothers, who were jealous of his relationship with Yaqub and decided to part them from each other. The hatred and jealousy that they carried for Yusuf made them blind to the blessings that they had. So what blessings did they have? They had many blessings. They were very good-looking young men. They were the sons of a prophet. Remember when they went to for the second round of their supplies, the father said to them, don't enter through the same gate, because you get nazar. They were 10, 11 good-looking, young, strong men entering another country. He said, no, don't do that. So they had lots of blessing. They had the blessing of health. They had the blessing of being the sons of a prophet. They had the blessings of good looks. And what did they do? They only focused on their jealousy. So, they acted on their jealousy, which was induced by shaitan. So jealousy is something that actually the shaitan induces, and it caused them problems later, and they lost respect in their father's eyes. So that didn't benefit them in the least. And so it teaches us how jealousy could make simple lives very miserable. So they had a very nice, simple life. They lived in the desert. There were many sons. They had a prophet for a father. They had a younger brother who was going to be would grow up to be a prophet. But their lives were simple. But what they did, they made their lives miserable because of their actions. And whenever you see someone else's wealth, whenever you see someone else's blessings, whenever you see someone else doing well, always say mashallah instead of being jealous. So always say it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has given it to them, and Allah can give it to us as well. Allah has given us in a different way. So we all have blessings in a different way. Never be jealous of anybody else's house, their car, their whatever possessions that they may have. Whatever they have, it's in their qadr. Allah gave it to you. Allah can give it to me as well. Allah can give it to the next person. So whenever you see the person, always say it is from the gifts of my Allah that He has given you this, mashallah. And Allah can give us as well, inshallah. And we learned that it is better to face hardship than it is better to face hardship than to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Yusuf did. He faced the hardship of a prison than to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He preferred to live in prison because he didn't want to be living outside, fulfilling the desires of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said that the prison is more to my liking than being outside and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we learned from Yaqub alayhi Islam, that do not complain about your grief to anyone but Allah. So he, throughout the story, his grief becomes more and more intense. He loses a young son, then he uses a second son. Not only when Binyamin got caught with the golden cup, the older brother said, I'm not going back, I can't face my father because we've already done wrong in the sense we said we were going to take Yusuf for play and amusement, and we threw him in a well. And our father has, always held that against us. And now we brought the other brother, Benjamin, and now we're not going back with him. I can't face my father, so he stayed as well. So three sons, he lost three sons, and he did not complain to anybody but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we learn from this that we all have complaints, we all will have complaints, we'll always have complaints. Different things, different era of life, different style of life, different times of life, we will have different complaints. But only complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't stand on every street corner telling whoever you see, whatever they ask you, oh, it's been really terrible, it's been a hard time, oh, well, I'm so good, but the other person's done this to me. It doesn't matter. Your complaint is is to be put in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever has happened hasn't happened randomly. Life doesn't happen randomly. Things don't happen randomly. Trials don't come randomly. Happiness doesn't come randomly. It's all a plan and parcel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's all a plan and parcel of our qadr, which was written many, many years before we came to this dunya. And it is preserved in the Lohe Mahfuz. And what we can do is, if there are situations we're unhappy with, is take the aid of dua, make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala improves our situation. I think I have said enough on what we have learned. Is there anybody that would like to share something that I probably haven't said and they felt that it was an important detail that they learnt from the story of Yusuf that we did over the last two weeks? Sisters, you can unmute yourself and speak. We will say goodbye to our Facebook friends. Jazakallah.